We are live. Okay, this is a mic check. Make sure everyone can hear me. I'm going to go live on Instagram just to push everybody over here. Hey, Instagram. All right, let me see. Bio link. Hey, everyone on Instagram. Post and pin comment. Okay, seems like it's working. Hey, what's up? Sound low. Okay, one sec. Let me tinker. I really don't want to wear headphones, but I think this should help. Check, mic check. 1, 2. Mic check. We're getting more. Ooh, sorry about that. That should definitely be louder. Louder noise. Louder sound. Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. We are back again. So I think there's a fewer number of total. Let me know if the mic is too loud now. But hey, everyone. I think there's a fewer number of total images to get through. I'm going to pick up right where I left off. 1, 2, 3. Let's see. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. No, it's about the same amount. So I'm going to hit the ground running here. Give it another minute for people to jump in, and then we'll get started. Got my little dachshund mug. If you're watching on Instagram, just jump over to the link in my bio for the actual high quality stream where you can see the actual iPad I'll be drawing on and all that fun stuff. So where is everybody tuning in from? Although it looks like a lot of the same people, which is always awesome. Curious where we're at. Oh, got my coffee. It's very full. Hey, on Instagram. India. Got someone from India. Drink of choice. It's always espresso, just pure espresso. Orlando, Florida, Panama City, Minnesota. Fantastic. Oh, I need to get my notes up because I want to make sure and do, if you missed the previous live stream, I did successfully add bookmarks for each photographer's first name and then the minute and second in the live stream that I deconstructed or critiqued that photo. Not deconstructed, critiqued is a better word. Sort of hard to name these things. It's like, is this a group photo critique? Or is it a photo markup? I look fresh. Okay. It's the hair, the light. It's morning time. Currently playing with Gain Stage. Oh, I'm so glad, Liam, that you're enjoying Gain Stage. Yes, I am a big fan. Like anything in the creative world, editing is in a constant evolution. And I'm really happy with where Gain Stage is at. Make sure my iPad brightness is maxed. Okay, so we're like 3 minutes in. I'm going to start the actual show here, picking up with, let's see, who do we got? Let me change my output. Boop. Hopefully my little thumbnail will stay out of the shot long enough to not be annoying. Make sure I can keep reading comments though. Very key. Okay, so we're starting with Jeremy. Jeremy at, got so many cameras here, 412. All right, Jeremy, come on down. Oops, didn't want to send. We want to edit, which I still think is weird. Okay, markup. So got my red pencil, good. Don't worry, your photo's not that bad. There we go. And diving in. Oh, we got another person from Kitchener. That's amazing. Yeah, Kitchener's got some photographers. Okay, Jeremy, so make sure the mic is still relatively pointed at my face. Love the processing on this photo. That's the first thing that sticks out to me. And then the light is just, perfectly even on her face. Love that. But if I start to break the photo down into its most basic shapes, based on contrast or, whatever. It's a little imbalanced. I wish she could have been framed a little more evenly right in the center here. So just moving her that way would have been nice. But I love the hand gesture. It's a little less common than you would normally see with people. And I think it really works. Plus, you did a great job having her joints and arms lifted enough that it wasn't, breaching the edge of the composition in any way that I find really problematic. This little thing right here, you probably want to clean up. But other than that, it's really cool. Interesting. Not much else to add to this. Again, I really like the processing, and then the quality of light overall on her face is really well done. Excellent and flattering. Don't know what you're going for with the expression, but a lot of times with women and men, but particularly women, you can just say, get a few shots and ask them to breathe through their mouth so that their lips are a little parted, and it forces a little bit more of like an in-between moment vibe, if that makes sense. So just try and remember, breathe through your mouth. You don't have to say like open your mouth or part your lips or anything totally weird. Just breathe through your mouth. It usually works. All right, now we're into Ron. Come on down. At 6:18. Okay. So right away, Ron, I love what you did balancing a little bit of the moon here, cute little cloud, and the couple just right in this. My first impression with any photo is to just look at how things are flowing, and this way just keeps it nice and dynamic with this cool shape that you made using both the background horizon line and the leaves. That's pretty awesome. Big fan. Nothing really that I would add to this other than, it could be a cool double exposure with any type of silhouette where there's an abundance of darks. You don't even have to have the double exposure affect the couple, but all this nice shadow is primed for an awesome double exposure. So, even later on when you're after the fact and you have more time to think and play around, just pop it back in your camera, pop it up on your screen and see, what you can play around with to fill that in. Otherwise, really nice. It's flattering. I like the amount of space between the couple. I like the fact that you can clearly get a read on both their silhouettes. Awesome job. I also love the blue to warm kind of gradient colors that you have there. Very natural to what a sunset would normally look like. So we got Joelle 738. Here we go. All right. Love a good black and white. One note, and I don't have another photo of yours to compare this to, but a common issue that I see is black and white images typically have, you can see this fade in the shadows, right? That fade is typically, I like it to be matched even to my color shots so that they're not totally different. And it's tempting to overfade when you're just working on a black and white photo totally by itself. So, as this looks a little overfaded to me, standalone, as long as it matches the black point of where your colors are, totally fine. So don't even worry about it as long as you've thought that through and kept that in mind. Aside from that, just a quick note, this is a little bit bright and bugging my eye. And then the transform tool with the grid line. If you go to the transform tool, click the little icon that has a little, it almost looks like a pound symbol. You can literally draw 2 up to 4 lines in any spot on the photo that should be straight and square, like this doorway or these steps. You can only choose 4, but generally you want one horizontal and one vertical. Just lock that in. And yeah, it might distort the couple a little bit, but they're further away, further enough away from the camera that the distortion's not gonna matter too much, but that's gonna lock in a nice clean shape that I think would really work well. The couple being off center is also kind of annoying. I think I would have preferred them to move a little bit. My arrow's not good, but they could have been centered in the doorway here. That would have been ideal. And then also just get rid of this little handle. I get rid of handles and little outlets or little bright spots on photos all the time. And if you can do it in real life in the moment, that's awesome. If not, totally fine too. Just do it later. Stuff like that should be easy to clone out. I really try and make a habit of seeing through the noise like that whenever I'm in the moment in photographing so that I have, as many options available to me as possible. Okay, so now we're doing Millie at 9:46. Love the tone of this one. Really cool. I think it's like the muted highlights that are really amazing. That typically works well. Like one of my presets specifically, it's gain stage soft. It specifically mutes the highlights in a way that works beautifully when you've got an abundance of kind of high key, bright stuff. This photo is not particularly high key. You know, it's got a lot of brightness here, and then the flowers and somewhat her skin tone. But overall, I'm obsessed with this composition. I really love it. I think if she could have been looking a little bit more down over her shoulder to see a little bit more of her face in the mirror, it would have worked well. Kind of like a just looking down instead of looking straight up over her side. But who knows? I don't know if that was actually physically capable in the moment. But you've done a really good job. Like my eye, as I look at this shot, just kind of flows. This pencil's the worst with the eraser. I wish you could just reverse the Apple Pencil and use it as an eraser. To have to double tap this thing is so annoying. But my eye kind of flows like this when I look through it. Like literally arrows sort of in this direction, sometimes starting at her face. But if you just close your eyes and then open it, really try and be hypersensitive to how your eye flows through a shot. A lot of that will be created by the light, you know, going from bright to dark. Your eye will generally gravitate toward the brighter spots first and then trail away from there. But it also has very much to do with shapes and like clear-cut lines. This shape that is being formed from both the flowers and then the composition of her arms and face is just beautiful. I love it. It just keeps it very dynamic. Editing wise, it's a little bit magenta, but maybe you're going for that because there's an abundance of kind of pinks and reds in the entire shot. So big fan. Nothing else that I would really note. Maybe you could get rid of that a little bit. It's a little distracting, but you could maybe also crop it a touch tighter, but I wouldn't go too far. So great job. Okay. And we're on Pablo at 11:59. Cool. Awesome. Another black and white. This is one where the fade, at least as a standalone photo, looks great to me. Yeah, it's a little less intense than the previous one. Again, all personal preference. The biggest thing is match your black point on your tone curve. This is a tone curve thing, not the black slider, the tone curve. If you have any fade, match it between your colors and your black and whites. I can't tell you how often I see that. Okay, so we're breaking this shot down into its most basic shapes. You know, your brain tends to fill in and connect the dots like that. And that's why whenever somebody's face or eyes or joints get cut off in a weird way, it can be annoying. This is kind of cool. It's almost like the composition, this really dark, intense rectangle is weighing down on her. Would have been interesting to see. It's not too problematic because it's not going through her face or her eyes in any weird way, but it would have been interesting to see if she was just a smidge lower. So she would like almost be carrying that really heavy, dark object against her. And that would kind of also accentuate the pose that is, you know, the kind of, it looks like one of those classic model, what are they called? Pain poses. That's what they call them, where they, you know, it's like, I got a headache or my back hurts. That's like all models, if for whatever reason, that's a look. But I like what you've done here. It's not too excessive. I just would be interested to see the composition if that line wasn't intercepting with her face. Otherwise, you did a good job cutting off. It would have been cool to see maybe her hands, but where you cut it off is good. The quality of light is a little uneven. You know, her eyes are super dark and her nose is highlight. Super fine when you've got a really beautiful subject, but you know, got to keep that stuff in mind and know when to rein it in. And hopefully you're doing it on purpose, but just pointing it out that uneven kind of light is not forgiving if somebody isn't, you know, a naturally beautiful person. So it's, you know, the quality of light is not my favorite, but it still works in this photo. Loving this chat, by the way. Okay, we got and okay, timing 14, 15 or 17. Let's do that. Boom. And guys, if you need to step out or something, this will be replayable. I'm going to make more of an effort this year to just push YouTube as a more public repository for all my videos, and these live streams will be replayable right on my YouTube channel, either in line with the published videos, or there's like a specific live tab, I think, that should make it easy to sort by these if you want. Okay, freaking love this placement. All right, you did. Obviously, I'm just tracing the most obvious thing right now. Great job balancing, the thirds and the middle of the frame with these nice objects. Only object I don't like, for whatever reason, I don't mind this one, but I don't like this one as much. Not that you could get rid of it, not that it's a huge problem, but I'm imagining it, without that one. I'm just like holding my hand over it, and it's so much cleaner. So I don't know if you want to just play around and clean that up and get rid of this one just to see. But overall, you did a good job tonally. Would have liked to see, although she's got a beautiful back to her dress, so it works. Still would have liked to see a little bit more of her face, maybe even looking down toward the camera a bit, so that, they still have some connection. You still see the back of the dress, but a little bit more of who she is, because right now it's all about the guy. He's a beautiful man, and I have serious hair envy right now. But otherwise, fantastic job framing them in this nice little spot, like almost perfectly balanced. I think you could push the gradient a little darker, just to nudge your eye a little more to the couple right there in the bottom corner. Just drag in a couple gradients, see what you get. But overall, really nice. And then you've also got this nice kind of warm yellow to blue transition, which I'm a big fan of. It really makes the scene kind of dynamic. It's a little bit desaturated for my tastes, but everyone's going to land different with that. Ali. 16:23. I'm going to have to accelerate the feedback here. Taking too long. Wow. Beautiful scene. It's hard to imagine. With landscapes, it's a constant issue that pictures kind of take themselves. So how do you push beyond that? Like I sometimes get creative paralysis when I'm shooting in environments like this, because just take the picture. It's beautiful. Obviously, the light's doing you favors, whether that's added or not. Like, holy crap, that's amazing. But the best you can do whenever you've got a crazy landscape like this is pocket your subject right in a perfectly either balanced horizon, or just wherever the spots of high contrast are, like the seam between these two hills, whatever you call them. You've balanced the couple nicely. Like, that's your goal whenever you're working with big landscapes. Make sure you don't have any horizons going through people's heads in any way that's a problem, and that everything is kind of balanced in a way that flows. Again, though, I just wish they had rotated a little bit more, just like the photo before this. I want to see at least the exact profile of each person in the shot, or a little bit more of each person, so I get a clear read of who they are and their expression. The couple's going to love this. They know who they are. They know who they are, and it's all good for them. But, if you could have just had them rotate, and then maybe, the camera lower to the ground, because there's not much of interest here in the gravel. If you could get a lower, kind of more bokeh-rich foreground, so the ground just kind of turns into bokeh shapes, that would be cool. But then you're dealing with where you're putting the couple. You have some headroom. You probably could have composed them there cleanly as well. But once you start putting their heads, if you did move the camera lower and they were higher, they would have been in this rocky mess, which is not where you'd want to compose them probably. So just thinking out loud here. Overall, I love it tonally. The pose is a little boxy. Try and stay away from these kind of like horizontal arm shapes. Hand on lapel, one hand up around his neck, his hand sort of up around her neck in some way, just to create a little more dynamic, less rectangular box like that is nice. But overall, beautiful. Tonally, I love the processing. It's a little desaturated for my taste, but you've got a full dynamic shot with the sky, and you didn't cut the mountain ridge off in any way compositionally, so you did a great job. Love it. Okay. This is Fiqri. I'm going to guess it's pronounced Fiqri. 1909. I'm like sweating already. Okay. This is tough physical work. Okay, I can't tell if that's my eyes getting... I have so many floaters in my eyes. Sometimes I can't tell if it's actually like a smudge in the lens or on my screen, or if it's actually a photo. This, I believe, is actually processed to be nice and soft with sort of a classic, I would say now, 80s tone, which is 80s style, I would say. It's not really a tone thing, which is really soft and sort of negative clarity, which is kind of cool with all this high contrast, backlit, spotty sun coming through behind her. I love that. I think, though, if you added that in post, I don't know if you used a filter, but if you added it in post, or maybe you could even dehaze your way out of it, I would add a little bit of, I would subtract some of the haze out of her face so she was a little bit more clear and not quite so ethereal. Yeah, but I love the tones overall. I love the composition. I love that she's holding and interacting with her dress. Hopefully you got a few shots of her kind of looking down at her hands. That's a classic thing I love to do. Just hold the dress, look down at your hands. Really makes it a more in-between moment instead of this frozen, like, or keep her exactly how she is, but just ask her to, like, just her eyes, turn and look another way. But, breaking this down into its most basic compositional shapes, you did a really good job framing her head in a way it's nice and balanced, and then, of course, her body sort of in the larger context of the composition. Great. Oops, get the name here. Simon. At 2052. Come on down. Okay. This rig is working pretty well. I'm liking it. How's it going over here on Instagram? Cool. We got 60 people there. Do we have more on Instagram than we do on... We do. Guys, if you're on Instagram, go to my bio and jump on the stream that's linked to, on my YouTube channel. It's much higher quality than what you're seeing on this. And it's replayable and everything else. So definitely do that. Okay. So this is Simon. Love the use of the prism or phone or whatever you did to create this nice shape with the couple. This is a classic situation. I don't know what was behind this reflection. Maybe it was more greenery. Maybe it was a trash can. Maybe it was a person or a bench. But this is a classic use of reflection for me, is to take what was, I'm assuming, above the photographer, the contrast of the leaves breaching or meeting the sky, and turning that into a useful shape to create some nice pockets to compose with. Just like that. I mean, it's so well done here. I think the biggest thing that's jumping out at me is this little flare or whatever that is. It's a little too pink. And then overall, it's a little like orange yellow and a little too faded for my taste. Again, everyone is their own person, but the skin tones in general, especially if you just hyper zoom in on only looking at the skin tones, they just look a little too yellow. I don't know what the stream is showing, but all I can look at is my iPad here. So just something to think about. If that's your overall vibe and style, that's fine. The only other thing I would say is my eye keeps nudging. It does go to the couple first, but then it kind of like drags over to this weird black spot. So maybe clone that out or brighten it if you want with some a brush of some kind, just to get a nice, a little bit more even reflection there. I'm so bad at drawing. Watch, I'm going to draw. Here's my attempt at drawing a face. That's literally all I can do. There's the nose, eyebrows. I'll add some detail with hair. I am really bad at drawing. So I appreciate, look at these arms. That is the worst drawing I've ever seen in my life. Okay, I'm gonna stop with that. Good job though, overall. I love the use of the reflection, and I love that the groom's hand is in his pocket. Like there's a gesture going on there. Typically with flowers, I like to do a few with them and then put them away as quickly as I can, because flowers, first of all, you can't see the gesture of the hand. That kind of sucks. Like there's so much life and intentionality and so much you can read into someone's hand shape. And with a giant bouquet, there's really only one shape to do, and that's down by your side or the bouquet up, or the bouquet is the gesture, which they are pretty. So you want to make sure and get some pictures with people's flowers for sure. But as far as the actual interaction between the couple and like any creative shots, I tend to take the flowers and like shoot through them or something, and really take those free hands and create some interesting gestures with them. So, okay. Sam, love the name. I'm going to hope that CamNez1, you're talking about my sketch of the human body. It is a 10 out of 10. It was beautiful. for a 5-year-old, probably a 3-year-old. Here we go. All right. So the green in the shadow tone is hitting me a little strong. The shot in general is a little underexposed. I think you could have brightened it just a bit. And then the dress itself kind of has a blue tint to it. Some of that would be resolved if you just brighten the exposure. Exposure has such an impact on color that it's insane. So I always start by getting my exposure dialed in and then nudging color around. So the dress, again, just has this like purpley, especially down here by the sides, sort of this purpley green blue tinge. So desaturate or just boost the exposure and see what you're getting. Some of it also, I think, is just a little too magenta overall. You could, change that up. I mean, good job trying to frame them in this really complicated, like, look, there's a chair here. Chairs have such like defined geometry. They're so hard to compose with. The best you can hope for is somebody did a good job stacking the chairs in rows so that you get a repeating pattern and it's more useful compositionally. So you did a great job dealing with that. But it's the off-camera flash that you're using is sort of highlighting these chairs in a way that I don't like. The darker ones over on the sides and the back aren't a problem, but the highlight that's being caught on the chairs, that's kind of annoying. So maybe darken the sides a little bit. And then the overall horizon line needs to be straighter. It's off by just a smidge. You could use the transform tool. That also looks like it could benefit from a horizontal aspect shift so that it's just a little more square. But overall, it's cool to see their shoes. Clients love their shoes, and then great job framing them in this arc that I can't draw around. Look how much I'm shaking because of all my coffee. Cool. And I like the serious vibe. It's awesome. Sometimes just deadpan. You know what? We're going to go back to the classic photos, portraits from 100 years ago, just frozen in time. I love that, to be honest. Okay, David, 26. Let's just go 27 even. Awesome shot. Very cool. Well done framing her in the overall background. I think I love the distinct shape of the hallway or whatever this arch would be called. It's really nice, clear rectangle, well framed. I would maybe get rid of this little thing hanging down so that it was even more like locked in. Just that little bit. And then love the gesture. Love that she's looking into the light. Like the side light it's really well done. It's a little dark here. Oh my God, I hate this pencil so much. There we go. It's a little dark there. So maybe just brighten it a touch. And in fact, you know what? This entire half, this from here over, I think if you just dragged in 1 or 2 gradients to brighten that side and then darkened this side, with another gradient, it would just nudge your eye a little bit more because it is so bright coming from where the light source is on the left side. It would draw your eye a little bit more to her body and her dress and everything else in the shot. But just, breaking this down into its basic composition, awesome job saying, look right there. And then you've got some fun little gestures for your eyes to jump around to. Maybe you could get rid of this lantern as well and whatever these small little things are just to tighten it up if you're going to post this on social media or something like that. Cool. Boop. Gabriel. And it's 28:52. Awesome location. This is great. And great job balancing a reflection to create some interest. Looks like, I can't quite tell what the floor was originally. Maybe just black and white. Looks like black and white tile, but I love the reflection. I don't know, black and white would have been interesting to see. But you've done a really good job. Like everything about this mural is begging you to position someone right in that center, and you've just reinforced that, adding these lower spots of lines. Running out of words already. The biggest thing though, it's a little washed out. I don't think this needs to be quite so crushed with the highlights, or maybe it's the fade, or maybe it's the shadow color. Like really pay attention, jump into your gradients, color gradients tool, panel, whatever tab, if you have the newer version of Lightroom. And one of my favorite colors to shift, though I usually start with like a blue color in my shadows, play around and kind of go for something the exact opposite of the dominant color, or it looks like you went for more of the pink, like the dominant color in this shot. I would love to see, though, something maybe more green or orange in the shadow tint. Anyway, I love the pose. Gosh, I really love what's happening with their arms here. This is a nice flow. It just, my eye keeps going back and forth between her hugging on his arm. That's excellent. And yeah, I love that they just have a sense of each other. They don't have to always be looking like right at each other, as long as they're sort of in the direction of one another. You did a great job. Everything is square. Everything is level. We got balanced lights on either side. Pretty awesome. I guess the only thing I don't like is this part of the mural. It's kind of pulling my eye up and it's off center from where they're standing. So if they could have nudged a little, just a little over that way, a couple inches, that would have been awesome. But not a huge deal because the overwhelming composition is so balanced. And these are things I try and think about all the time as I'm actively shooting, which is really, really tough. This is one reason why mirrorless cameras and live view are so nice, because you can really assess the scene when it's like just on a screen in front of you instead of right up in your eye. Just try and practice. All right, hold on. 31:29. Faqih. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that, but here we go. Another black and white. Looks awesome. Interesting creative choice to not have him in focus. I kind of like it, especially since it is such a busy scene. You know, but really, I'm okay leaving most lights, canned recess lights, spotlights that are up over wherever. Usually in most shots, I'll leave these little spots, depending on how they land compositionally. But anything else that's just like a dark vent, like go through and get rid, especially sprinklers, vents, get rid of any signs, all these little spots, maybe even that, just to clean it up. And then classic starting, or I would say new photographer issue, if you do it on one side and there's a reflection, something's being reflected, you've got to do it on the other. So just keep that in mind. Cool moment. It's a shame, though, that this, whatever this sign is as a rectangle, is like intercepted right with the guy's head. If that wasn't there, you could have had a much more precise composition. You also have some chairs here. Maybe get rid of the handles and legs. And yeah, this overall shape could use a little more balance with the guy walking a little over that way. So I don't know if you could have moved. Obviously, this looks like it was a totally candid moment. So you're trying to balance a reflection with him walking down the aisle or the hallway. You can't always control these things, but this is like best case scenario that I'm hoping for. Okay, Nick. But you know, I want to add one more thing with the one before. The gesture makes this photo. Like that's, no matter how many little distracting elements, there's not much to talk about with the light. Like that gesture, it's all about hands. I swear, like half the time with any good photo. It's amazing how that proves to be true over and over. All right, 3340. Nice sort of filmic processing on this. It's a little desaturated and faded for my taste, but you know what? That doesn't matter. It looks good objectively. You've done a great job framing them in the basic horizons right there. Classic, straightforward photo. You know, we have the bouquet, so there's not much to remark on about the gesture of her hand. She's just holding the bouquet. Hand around his back is nice. It's a nice in-between thing. You know, I don't know if you forced this, like, hey, almost kissed and then hold it or something. That's a classic sort of way to create an in-between moment, is say just almost kiss. Don't fully. Which I love, but really, I'm not going to say anything else about it. The light is interesting. It's not super dynamic, but the overall flow with her dress and the composition and everything about this shot is just pointing me right to where I want to be. So this is a classic great photo. I mean, I guess if I'm being super picky, like his hair has a little thing in the back that maybe you could clean up, but I generally don't like playing with hair because it's not my job to get people's hair to look the way it needs to. That's the hair person's job, not mine. All right. Even though I will try if I see something obvious in the moment. Okay. Cool. So this looks like off-camera flash. I don't know if you're using a video light or an actual strobe or something like that, speed light. I think you could have gone a little brighter with that light so that the background light wasn't so bright. You're kind of lighting them evenly between these lights and their skin tone. So because they are also intercepting with these lights compositionally, we've got the distinct window shape here that they're intercepting with, and then all the lights are kind of blasting out of their head. Because that is such an overlap, I think you would have done a little bit better, if possible, to boost whatever light you were using to light them. Thus, from a relative brightness, darkening the lights behind them. Compositionally, also, this is pulling my eye a lot to the left side. So either, I don't know if you can do anything to compose that out. This is also pulling my eye. It's just everything basically from here over gets a little bit worse and distracting. So just darken that in post, or have shifted your light a little more to trend to the right side. And yeah, just things to think about. I also think the transform tool could have done you some favors to make this a little more straight on. This is a little distorted, the actual shape of the window. But the overall photo itself is balanced nicely. You did a good job with having this painting and this mirror balanced in the shot. So cool. I like the processing. It's maybe a little underexposed. You could probably boost exposure just a little bit. Okay, so we are Candid Stories at 36 minutes. Man, this is flying by. How's everyone doing? I'm gonna take a quick check-in with the group. Sorry, I'm not paying any attention at all to Instagram comments or questions, but I'll take a peek. I have no opinion. I literally have watched none of the Olympics, so don't ask me that. Okay, so I burned a minute saying hi. Here we go. Awesome. Love this composition, like the with the people. I love that you're kind of building this hill of faces to look at. The back, is such a strong composition with the pose of the actual humans. It's a shame that this is this tree is sort of intercepting in a way that's growing out of her head, and I don't love that. I wish there was just more of the leaves sort of here. But overall, I really like the interaction of the people. I think the bokeh is pronounced enough that the background, as nitpicky as I might be about where the branches are coming out, it probably doesn't matter that much because the quality of light on the family is really nice. I wish the kid had a little bit more of a haircut so I could see a little more of his face, but it's still cute. And I like how they're each sort of in their own, they're connected as a unit, but they're each in their own sort of phase of expression, which is really cool. And you've done a really great job cutting off what I'm sure was a whole lot of random hands and gestures and stuff that just would have created a lot of busyness and noise. I love the tone and the processing overall. And yeah, I'm going to leave that there. Good job. Sharan? Okay. Awesome. So another great use of a reflection. Looks like, that hard line is fascinating. I wonder if you used a piece of glass or something. Normally if you're holding a prism or a phone or any reflective element right up against your lens, the edge where it breaks tends to kind of evaporate into a beautiful gradient. So it's not so obvious of what the object is. I'm guessing you were either using a lens with a smaller aperture where that bokeh and that gradient gets a little less intense and you see more defined lines, or you're using something that was further away, like a car hood or something like that. Either way, it kind of works, but it's sort of annoying that it's intercepting, this white line is intercepting right where their fingers and hands are. That's not my favorite, but I do like the shape that it's making with what's being reflected. Again, this nice little pocket. If that white line wasn't there, I'm trying to imagine it. It would be much cooler. But you did, looks like, an excellent job using the transform tool to, otherwise there's an excellent lens as far as distortion goes. These lines are locked in like really, really straight, which is beautiful. And I love that you've positioned their hands right in nearly the middle of this white gap between the bricks. Biggest thing though, aside from that little white line and some of the compositional things, he's way too underexposed himself. So it looks like the light was trending off camera, like the direction she's looking, she's bright enough. If he was also looking that way, probably would have helped. Since he can't do that now, can't change where he's looking now, just brighten that up. Bring in some kind of gradient from the right side, or just selectively brighten him, just so that his skin tone is a little bit more matched with where hers is. Overall, it's a little too blue and green as well, as far as the white balance and processing goes. Got to watch out with your skies. Sometimes they can turn a little too aqua color. Probably want something a little more purple, like blue purple, than aqua green, personally. And we're at 41:15. Okay. Another black and white. It's a big day for that. So immediately thinking about crop, I would go in, make this 8x10 or whatever the 10x8, I guess, whatever the landscape orientation of that is, probably even a square crop to get rid of all these cars. You know, unless you could have used a slower shutter speed or something to create some dynamic. Like, cars are just kind of ugly in general. And this one, you know, cars are create their own distinct shapes a lot of times. This one isn't doing any favors by being clipped off the edge of the composition. Also a shame that the line is being clipped as well. I would have liked to see the entire shape of that line. Yeah, I really would have gone something like that, but with the lion still in the shot, gosh, almost even bring it in that tight to create a more balanced composition. Hopefully that makes sense. And I guess my thumbnail's sort of in the way here. There we go. So you can see what I'm talking about. Also, yeah, I mean, you're getting some cool elements with this row of lights kind of starting to draw your eye to where the couple is, but the cars are just so disruptive in the shot. It's really unfortunate. Busy space, hard light to work in, not easy. But you did a good job framing them against the horizon line so that there wasn't, that line wasn't going through anything too awkward. And I like the overall gradient of the sky. It's really nice and kind of nudges you again toward trending your eye downward toward the couple. The only thing I'll say, like, you've got a straight horizon line and most of this is, you know, somewhat balanced, especially if you cropped it in more. But this one big compositional element is a little off kilter. I'm not sure if you could adjust for that using some sort of distortion correction, or maybe just rotate a little bit so that this was more of a straight up and down pillar, whatever you want to call it. J. Anthony, 43. Love this moment. I'm curious to hear how you fared with your legs being clearly in the water as this hit you. Gotta love those risky shots like that. That's fantastic. I love her expression. His not as strong. Nothing that's within your control, obviously. His hands also, like, the gestures a little too straight and stiff. So, like, you're getting an awesome composition, getting a great moment that the couple's gonna love. It's just you didn't get lucky with how he was reacting. And that's okay. Sometimes that happens. I applaud the risk. Again, I love the overall composition, this sort of pocket that the foamy water is creating that's just drawing your eye toward looking at the couple. Pretty funny. I would like to see more in the sequence to see if there's anything else that he did to create a little more of a interesting dynamic between them. her expression is like perfect. She's laughing, she's smiling, clearly having fun. Her hair is trending toward, oh my God, this Apple Pencil. I want to break it. Her hair is trending in like his direction in a way that just, yeah, it's all good. I love it. Just draws your eye looking at him. I'm just, I wish he was looking at her or doing something else. Oh my God. All right, we're going to accelerate this like crazy. Lock Lee. Cool name. Awesome reflection. Biggest thing, great use of dynamic range, by the way. It's not easy with super bright, harsh sunlight. I don't understand what's happening. I think this is a photoshopped reflection, so it's a little too precise. Yeah, it's definitely photoshopped, but that's okay. Thing is, if you're gonna bother with jumping in and creating a reflection like that, find a picture where they're a little more balanced in the horizon. Their heads are being cut off with the contrast between the white snow and the dark green mountains. So honestly, if you've gotten really low, so you pocketed them here in this spot above the horizon line, and then created a reflection, I think that would have worked a little bit better. Again, I tend to hate just this boxy pose and the arm closest to camera being up and around, because it just kind of hides the person who's being hugged a little too much. Can't even see he's just a floating head. You don't have a neck. Personal choice. Here we go. Amit. 46. It's so nice today. I think I might actually be able to go outside for a run, which is blowing my mind because it's February 11th. Nice use of the light. Really cool. Looking into the light is a good way to go with direct, harsh sunlight like this. And you framed her pretty well. I think if you're going to bother with all the editing or whatever it was to block out what was on the left side of the frame, also clean up some of these little, like these two dark spots. And I think the composition, like this is kind of annoying, this little bit here. So if you could just tighten the crop up so that my eye wasn't being pulled up toward the frame. See, my eye it goes to her and then it immediately drifts upward towards some of the distracting elements like these dark shadows and that bit of the pillar. So if you could go something like that, it's a lot cleaner. And it's a little bit too warm overall. I think you could go a little cooler and maybe a slightly different shadow hue in your color grading. Love this one. Ruben. Oh, my back hurts. I need to remember to stretch before these. Who would have thought? Gotta stretch. Oh, love the color gradient. Love the quality of light. Love the moment. Getting a phone call. It's not interrupting the stream, I hope. Love the dress. This is beautiful. Actually, one of my favorite subreddits on Reddit is wedding dresses. Just see what women are thinking through and the decisions and the choices between all the different dresses that they have to choose from. It's always fascinating to me. So I don't know what I would change about this. You've done a great job balancing them in this nice shape. It's great that this black line here disappears into the flowers and doesn't intercept with the couple in any problematic way, right? If this black line was also as pronounced up here, it would be a problem, I think, but you got away with it. I love the gradient of color going from this warmer tone from the bottom half of the photo to the kind of pink magenta tone. Way to pose with the, the bouquet. Great pose with the bouquet. I would never have been able to pull that off personally. That's it. I mean, honestly, there's not much I can say that I don't like about this. Maybe my eye is getting pulled a little in the upper corner there. Maybe you could just clone stamp, if I move my thumbnail, clone stamp that to be even more flowers. So everything just kept my focus more on the couple, but great job. Love the edit and yeah, awesome dress overall. Big fan. Neretxu? I don't know. 25. Okay. Awesome attempt. I love the tone of this red, which you can't even see because my marker's red. And then the fact that it splits right down the middle is cool. This like crazy light leak looking effect. That's awesome. And you've done a good job kind of balancing that against the overall horizon. But I'm not really understand. I need to see their faces because I can sort of start to see hers. And it also looks like the red isn't doing her any favors in terms of skin tone. It's just way too sunburned. Not ideal. Also, that's sort of affecting her skin here. It's just not ideal. So, would have loved to see this inverted so that you cover all of this and only see them against the ocean and maybe the blue sky, something like that. It's about all I'm going to note on that because I'm trying to speed things up. But I applaud the effort. Big fan of light leaks overall. 30. All right. Way to frame them. So well balanced in this nice little orb. It's like you're getting two compositions in one. Actually, three. You get like the main shot. You get this one composition, then you get a sub composition or whatever the catchy phrase is for having basically just layers of shapes. Awesome. Would have been nice if they were a little more like up and centered in the frame, but it's really not that big a deal. I think the processing looks pretty good. He's a touch pink. Their skin tones are very different. She clearly has like makeup and just a different complexion overall. He's a little pink, so maybe adjust that. And then I could have gone for a little bit of like gradient being drug in from the side there to darken the most of the center and left side of the frame so that just nudged your eye a little more consistently toward the couple. 51:35. Thanks for sticking around, everybody that's still here. This is great. Here we go. Awesome. Okay, skin tone looks a little too pink, a little too magenta. Actually, a lot. I think you need to go a lot cooler and work in a little bit more green in your tint. Get rid of that and crop it in tighter. Ooh, it's tough. I mean, you did a good job. I don't understand what's happening. This looks like two photos. I think this must be a screenshot because it looks like I just don't understand what's going on at the edge of this frame here. Yeah, it's definitely a screenshot. So I'm going to ignore that part and just assume this arch disappears into more of the natural stone that's there. Honestly, though, I really wish they could have been framed within the arch a little bit lower so that they were just in that dark space because the background is still bright enough that you're getting these intercepting lines affecting it's just intercepting with their face in a way that I don't love. Also get rid of that guy and just overall crop, I would go square and bring it in that tight probably. So cool. It's a tough place to shoot. I'm pretty sure that was the Grand Central Station in New York. Not easy. Cameron, 53:10. Okay. Pretty good job trying to frame them. Like these are the dominant lines that I'm sort of seeing in the shot, like the foreground trees. They could have been a little nudged that way to just center between these two. Get rid of this. Overall, you have a lot working against you when you're shooting super wide. This looks like a 24. I don't know exactly. You're a little too close for being that low to them. It's not doing her any favors with her chin, and it's just not doing anybody any favors in terms of flattery. Also, the shape of her arm is a problem relative to his, right? You see the back of her elbow, but the front of his, it's just, it looks sort of inverted in a strange way. So generally, I ask somebody to go palm out so that the opposite person can hold and you get a connection that's, I guess if her palm was out and then he was holding it in the exact same position, but her arm really just needed to be twisted the other way. Also, his hand could have been hidden, I think. And yeah, just backed up a little bit. He would have been in a much better situation. Also, this bright spot is drawing my eye up to the brighter part of the photo. Would be cool to see more of this kind of texture over here so that that wasn't occurring. I love the tone of the processing though. Really interesting greens and blues. We're at 54, 50. Cool. Ooh, at first I thought this was a reflection, but it's not, which is even cooler. Camera low to the ground, creating some shape with the bokeh. Like you can almost never go wrong. I absolutely love that. Well framed in the horizon line, like not anything too upsetting with their joints being cut off with that. Maybe get rid of some of these little sticks just a little bit, but I kind of like all of them. They're not too problematic. Great use of balancing dynamic range. This is a natural light photo, so the fact that you were able to bring back that skin tone, you did a really good job. There may be a little cool toned in the face. You could go a little bit more red or yellow right on their faces, but overall, big fan. And the silhouette of her body in this dress is pretty intense. Looks really cool, honestly. No complaints there. He looks a little awkward, like his expression, just a little bit, but it's not a huge problem because it's also about the scene. So, if you zoom in really tight, it's more obvious, but it's not needed because the rest of the composition provides so much interesting context. They're pretty well balanced in the frame overall. You could almost go like that though. A couple different options. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. But you could almost go, it's tough. Off center like that a little bit. I think I might like some more if his expression had been a little bit better. Tonally though, I'm a big fan of that dynamic range. Good blues, good warm sunset on the edge of the horizon. Dan, 56. We are going to go over an hour. Even longer than the first one. Awesome, Dan. Okay, so good use of trying to make something out of purple pink uplighting. That's always sort of a tricky issue with skin tones especially. Gosh, they're right on the edge of being so perfectly balanced in this little pillar thing. Really wish they could have been like an inch that way. Nice pose. Her finger being straight is sort of awkward. If it was actually touching him and you got a little curl to the finger, maybe would have been better. Love a wedding dress with pockets. Big fan of that. But overall, yeah, really, really nice. I think could probably darken some of this a little more. The shadows are offset and unbalanced, but it's not a huge issue. Overall, the biggest thing, great job with skin tone, given the uplight in and around the room. The biggest thing is just getting them more centered in that really defined shape. All right, Brian. I shot Brian's wedding. Here we go. So this looks like Richmond, Virginia. I think I stayed at that hotel once. Love okay, first of all, great straight horizon line. Like this is not a problem. Everything's pretty well balanced. Got a little bit of noisy things like the sign here. But I do love what's going on with the cars. Like this is an awesome way to make the awkward defined shape of a car actually usable. Motion blur. With a slower shutter speed or whatever you want to do to get that. Biggest thing though is that the signage. It's a cool sign and it's got its own distinct shape, and they're intercepting with it in a way. I don't know where you could have put them. Maybe seated on the ground, so they were like here, like clearly defined against the white brick. I think that would have probably worked the best. But you're balancing a lot. You've also got like a random person in the background, which is kind of a bummer. But yeah, just cleaning up from what I've got at this stage, I would just probably go through and remove all these little bits and bobs as much as you're able and just roll with it. But yeah, nice. Desperately wish you had them sit down so they were below and you could read the name of the hotel more clearly. If they were willing to sit. Don't know if that's always possible. I didn't start this one with my disclaimer of I have no idea what's physically possible in real life, so you don't always have to listen to my suggestions. All right, nice job with the transform. It's a very square, nice picture. Obviously, I think this is so distorted from shooting down low with a wide lens, you couldn't snap it to be vertically straight or you would get too much distortion with the couple. So what you've done with the shot overall at this point, I love. Everything's so well balanced, all these elements. Great. It's a shame though that these signs are here, especially the this one's not a problem. This one though I don't love, but still, even with those distracting elements, you've done a great job balancing them. I'm seeing a little too much of the neck, her neck. So the kiss is classic, but if you can remember to say look down and back in someone's direction, kiss on her. He could kiss her on her forehead, and her neck would be a little less just exposed and sort of enlarged in that way. But yeah, overall, cool. Nice processing, nice even flat light. Nathan. Guessing this is not Nathan Mitchell. 33 viewers on Insta. Crazy. Okay. Nice processing. I like the dynamic range. It's kind of got a soft feel to it. Just breaking down things. So this horizon line is breaching their eyes. That's a problem. Camera higher, camera lower, whatever you got to do to get their faces outside of that line would have been good. But I love, you're working in, I would have kept as much of the sky as possible while trying to recompose with their faces. Love the tone, and the use of dynamic range is great. The pose is nice. Yeah, it's really just that line is super annoying going through their heads. And then they could have been like an inch that way to just really be centered in this composition. They're offset just a little to the left. Julio. Here we go. Oh man, awesome job, but I just really want to see more of the guy's face in this as well. I think you could have also maybe gone a shallower depth of field to make his shoulder less pronounced and less in the way from the rest of this cool car. I mean, we would have still had a sense of what the car, that it was a car and that it looked cool and everything if you were at a shallower depth of field, if at all possible. And that really would have just created more sharpness in this mirror to draw your eye to the couple. So that's the biggest thing. It's just the aperture is too sharp, especially given that his shoulder's in the way. Processing wise, it looks pretty great. Nice even light, a little warm, but not a problem. Here we go, Igor. Cool. So this is a great example of not too much neck. It's right on the edge, but looking kind of down and back, over and back in his direction. It's a nice sense of connection between them, and I don't have too much of that really stretched neck effect like we talked about a few photos ago. Overall, really nice framing them, and not only the shape of the building, but the shape of the shadow in the building. And you don't have any super awkward lines going directly through them, and they're in direct sunlight, which is always sort of tricky. So breaking down the composition, that looks great. I like their hands. It's a little too repetitive in the pose. If they were facing you a little more, maybe you wouldn't. You have almost two L's here. So just to create some asymmetry, either have them turn so you see less of his arm and more of her shape, or change up their pose so that, I don't know, maybe her hand was lifted or something on her shoulder. Who knows? There's a lot you could do, but overall, really cool. Love the processing. Tonally, it looks really great. And nice balancing that really harsh light. It's always tricky. Jen. 1:03 and 22 seconds. All right. Love the vibe, the editing vibe, the location, everything's cool. This is annoying. I get rid of that. The main horizon line is a little bit annoying. I wish it had been lower somehow, or maybe higher. You're trying to frame them in this opening amongst all this crazy vertical noise. Not an easy task. So as much as you can frame that main horizon line to be a little lower, which obviously you would have had plants in your way then. So I don't know what you could have done here except get closer and play around some more. But, also missing the woman's face a little. Nice, clear. He looks great. Wanted to see her a little bit more if she could have just spun out some or something like that. Just basic posing differences. If you have other shots, then I would go check them out. Wayne, can you hear my voice getting quieter and weaker? Awesome. Good off-camera flash. It's a shame that the light is still bright enough to see that line breaching their eyes and their face. I really don't like that. So I don't know if you can push and pull your highlights and shadows or just like brush this one line out a little more and really emphasize the fact that they are just covered in light. Like really make it all about this shape. You could probably even darken with some gradients, all of that. Just really lean into the contrast of them being so bright against the background. Also, the umbrella is a great shape, but the direction of the light being directly overhead is a little unflattering to their faces. Their eye sockets, especially his, are a little too dark, but I like the trade-off because the shape of the umbrella is so appealing. But just have to think about. Go 1:05 and 25 seconds. Okay, busy scene, right? We got horizon line there, we've got a big shape here, and they're not really carved out as much as I would like. You've done such a good job using the light. She's in a complicated swing with these like shadows and lines going through her face. That you've done such a good job trying to separate them from the background, but it doesn't quite work. Plus you get these leaves just breaching that horizon line in a way that I don't love. I would have liked to see a lot more of these leaves, kind of like what's happening here. That looks really cool. There's enough of them. If they had just been hanging a little lower or none of these leaves at all would have maybe helped get rid of some of these random branches. This guy could go. And then, yeah, just the quality of light on the couple. It's so tough. I don't know really what you could have done here except maybe not have her in the swing. I don't know if that was their idea or not, but I would have probably trended toward having them stand closer to this opening somewhere over here, facing the camera and lighting them more directly so that they were a little bit more clearly defined in the composition. 2 more photos. Here we go. Home stretch. Kelsey. Beautiful moment. It's so sweet when couples break down like that. It's a shame he's not composed a little more tightly. Moment always overrides any compositional, like technical issues with composition or light. So fine choice there. But it does feel like you could have taken a couple steps closer, just really to emphasize detail. Like we don't need to see his foot. It's a little bright because the light is catching his foot. The carpet's kind of cool, but not really. Like, I think, honestly, just crop it like that and you're fine. There's no need for anything else. Boom. A billion times better photo. I love the processing. This is where kind of the high key, really bright window and whites and highlights being pulled back with like a muted tone curve, with the tone curve just being a little crushed, really shines. I love what you did with the processing. So, nice. Cool. And last is Rach. And 50 seconds. So, applaud your attempt to do motion blur in this, and they look nice and sharp. I just feel that this was added. It definitely was added in post. So that's a tough game to play with motion blur because you are almost never going to get the physics right to how they look in real life. And humans are really good at detecting when things don't look physically real. And, interesting, like it's nice that you can clearly see their faces and they're having fun. I'm sure they love this photo, especially with, I'm guessing that's his motorcycle, but compositionally, you're not really being super definitive. Like they should be totally on the side, but I'm thinking more center framed because the composition really is like the defined shapes are really all about the motorcycle and them. So they probably should have gone more centered with this. Also seems a little dangerous to imply that they're moving while she's falling off the back of the bike. It's a little cool toned. I would have gone a little warmer, a little more green. And then you could do yourself a lot of favors by dragging in a couple gradients or brush to just darken this bright side to really highlight looking at the couple. But a lot of moving parts here that just, it needs some work to come together. But we're done for now. Woo! That was intense. I'm like legit tired. thanks everyone for watching. This will be replayable. I will update the show notes to, or the notes of the entire video to have, of course, all these time-stamped things. I really appreciate it. I will definitely do more of these, and just follow me here or my Patreon or Instagram to see when I have an open call to just drop files in a Dropbox. And I learn a lot from this. I train my intuition and my sensitivity to how my eye follows a scene so well, like when I do this. I mean, if you have extra time, sit down and do this with your own photos. I spent months doing that in my early days, even before an iPad. I would use just my mouse to awkwardly draw lines and try and pick up on where those defined shapes are occurring in photos. So that was a lot. I can't believe that was an hour and 10 minutes. Thanks for everybody that stuck around on Instagram. I'm going to say bye to Instagram people. Bye, everyone. And thanks, everybody on YouTube. I really appreciate your attention. Hope you got something out of that. It's been awesome to do these. And yeah, we'll do another one maybe in a few weeks. I do some traveling in March, but it's a couple weeks of just editing wedding stuff, and that's it. I'm just home otherwise. So bye, everyone. I'm gonna end the stream